I had been out of dancing for 15 years maybe or something like that. And I decided to go back. And I went back this time to a heels class. And I intentionally did that because I was like, I need to like do something sexy. Like I need to remember that like you are bad.
Welcome to the Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast. Here, you will raise your awareness to what is, and most importantly, what isn't working for you in all areas of your life, to identify your unique abilities and superpowers, to take purposeful action. We all get stuck, and now you can unstuck yourself with me every week. Now let's get unstuck, peeps. Hello. Welcome back, peeps. It's a special interview episode with our dope guest, Jenn Roberts. Jenn and I hop, skipped, and jumped all around with little Jenn and little Crystal playing, sharing stories and experiences that paved the way for Jenn to build such an impactful and purposeful community. Jenn Roberts is an equity strategist, facilitator, and social designer working at the intersections of systems change, equity, innovation, and design. She is the CEO of Verse Education Group, a consultancy that helps organizations turn their good intentions into equitable, anti-racist action through interactive learning experiences and dynamic coaching. In 2020, she founded Color Girls Liberation Lab, an intergenerational healing, dreaming, and innovation space for Black women that assists them in dreaming up and designing their most liberated lives. Her biggest pleasures are dancing and being mommy to her spunky and creative 10-year-old daughter. You can learn more about her work at coloredgirlslab.org or verseeducationgroup.com. Both will be in the show notes of today's episode. And be sure to listen to our Think Tank segment of this episode where Jenn has her dope-tastical aha moment of recognizing newness overload. Enjoy. Hey peeps. We are here, Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons podcast, and y'all know we highlight stories that I have been through, but also my main focus is to create a space for others to share their stories as well. And today I get to chat with Jenn. Now, Jenn, before we dive into all the dopeness that you're creating, building, I would like for you to let the peeps know about little Jenn that paved the way for the current Jenn that sits before me today.
Little Jenn was a little shy, but I don't think most people would have thought she was because I danced. I performed quite a bit in the choir and stuff at school and church. So I was a performer, but in regular life, I was often worried about what folks were thinking, whether I was showing up the right way, whether I was doing things the right way. Like, I didn't have a word for it then, but, we could call it social anxiety at this point. We all know now. Little Jenn was a rule follower and a good kid. This Jenn has learned not to be that, has like unlearned a lot of that. And I think I needed to be that for a bit to set myself up to be able to make the choices I'm making now. I have a lot to fall back on if my dreams don't, pan out the way I think. And I also know, like, based on I grew up in Richmond and I grew up on the south side of Richmond. I'm very proud of that. And I was one of the first in my family to go to college. Don't shun the rule follower, Jenn, because that person allowed my family to get ahead of where my mother's generation was. There was benefits to it, and I'm glad I'm unlearning all of it now. But yeah, little Jenn was fun, and with her friends was totally herself, which is the same way I am now. But kind of with new people, new experiences, a little timid.
Yeah.
That was me.
Oh man, I appreciate you sharing that because I met you at a networking event. You were sitting to my right, a little bit behind me. It was at the
Black Street Conference.
Thank you. I saw the sign and I was like, I want to make sure I say it right. It was the first one. Shout out to Desiree who told me about the conference, because had she not told me, I wouldn't have been there. So shout out to dope people. I resonate with so much that you shared where you said we have a term for it. I was like, what's the term? Because I felt that as a kid too. What is that? Like, I was very curious. I played basketball. I say sports, but really organized basketball. Always thought what people were thinking. definitely a rule follower, 100%. And you mentioned dance. What style of dance? Like, what did you do when you mean dance? Because in my head, me and my sisters were recording music videos and learning the choreography. We had Aaliyah on deck. So that's where.
Yeah, I was one of the founding members of City Dance Theater. It was called City Dance Troupe then. And so I did ballet, tap, jazz, African modern, the whole
Wow.
nine, competed, danced at all the festivals that Richmond's known for, like growing up and stuff. So like had a really, like honestly having dance and being at the schools I went to Richmond Community High, and those are the things that allowed me to have moments to kind of step out. The stage was where I could be the Jenn
Yeah.
I think I always knew I was, but felt like I couldn't maybe be. And I don't know if I felt that pressure as much until I got into high school. And I was actually like thinking about this the other day. It's so funny you asked this question because I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, when did you really start feeling like if I change and be something other people are not expecting, that it's not okay? And I remember when the What Would Jesus Do bracelets came out, like when I was in high school.
Yes.
And I was like a very, very much a church girl. I grew up in a mega church in Richmond that no longer is in existence. And I was at church a lot and I enjoyed it. We had a great experience there. But I remember when those What Would Jesus Do bracelets came out and everybody was wearing them, and I was one of those people wearing them. And I remember I got known around school as like being the girl that had the What Would Jesus Do bracelet on. And I was never like one of those Christian girls that people felt like they couldn't be cool around. Like I was not a holier than thou Christian, but everybody knew I was in church. I was very active. Like I danced at church. Like everybody, I would invite them to our stuff, like that type of thing. And I think like in high school, when I really started stepping into like, I'm questioning things, or I like maybe don't want to follow this rule I've been taught should be the way of my life, but I feel like I can't because everybody done seen me with this What Would Jesus Do
Oh,
bracelet.
wow.
And now I'm the girl, like they expect me to hold myself to a certain standard. And maybe they weren't thinking that, but I was thinking they were thinking that, right? So
Yes.
like there were just things I wanted to do or things I wanted to experiment with, or maybe risks I would have taken that I didn't take then because I was just like, people are expecting me to be this. And so let me just be that, like,
Mm.
let me just be, because I think that was a lot of it. And did not see it as that then. But, looking back at it, that's definitely it.
Yes, this moment, I want to thank little Jen and the current Jen that is speaking to me and little Crystal. I know exactly what you're talking about. I did have the bracelet. We went to church often, but I didn't talk about church a lot. I didn't invite people to events, mainly because we didn't have a lot of events, if I'm honest. And I didn't have a lot of friends. I knew
Mm-hmm.
people, but I didn't have like friends. Like that's my best friend, that's my girl. I didn't have that. And if I did, and people are listening, my bad. I remember it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Bates Orthodontics pride themselves in offering a welcoming and friendly environment with top of the line orthodontic work. Bates Orthodontics in Chesterfield, Virginia is your one-stop shop for child and adult orthodontics. As a Diamond Invisalign provider, Dr. Bates treats more patients with Invisalign than any other orthodontist in Chesterfield. They provide excellent quality and professional care while bringing your best smile to life. Looking for orthodontists in Chesterfield, Virginia? Stop searching nearest orthodontist to me and contact Bates Orthodontics today. They will make sure you get professional orthodontic treatment you need in a welcoming and fun environment. Book your appointment today by calling 804-207-8219 or visit batesorthodontics.com. But you really touched on something. I was just telling someone about this. I started doing pole dancing classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I started the first time I went, it was for my sister's bachelorette party. Oh my goodness, they've been married like 10 years, I think, maybe longer. And I remember being like, this is hard. This is like a workout. And so recently I'm like, I don't want to do the traditional CrossFit stuff or HIIT workouts. I want to do something else. So I started using the cross rope. It's the way to jump rope. My friend
Okay.
Jasmine
Mm-hmm.
told me about it. It's fun. I like jumping rope. And I was like, I want to do more things that are exciting, but still give me that feeling of I'm working now. I'm actually burning calories.
Mm-hmm.
I feel my body toning up. And I was watching a show on Netflix and the girl was talking about going back to pole dance. I was like, oh, I remember pole dancing.
Mm-hmm.
One, the confidence that come from it, but Jen, I posted a reel for that reason of I want people to see me different shit. I'm just doing different stuff. I might
Yeah.
be dancing on the pole for exercise. Yes, I love God. I love the energy, the spirits, the things that flow to me. I know it's not all me. I know there's a bigger power. I love
Yeah.
all of it. I love being multi-dimensional. But you mentioned there were things that you would have done or taken a risk. Do you remember what those risks were?
I mean, really, I think a lot of it had to do with like, I will say this. My mother is a very, very, very spiritual person. And she would probably hate if I said she was religious, but I do think she is also religious. And most of the women in my family are. You know, when you're growing up in church like that, even in a denominational space where I was, where maybe clothes weren't emphasized as much as being an issue and things like that, but they were still getting in on us about what parties you were going to, like
Mm,
whether you were, you know, listening to secular music, whether you were having sex, whether you were making out, whether
yep.
you had a boyfriend, you know, like all these
Yes.
things that like in high school I should have been experimenting with so that
Yes.
when I got to be grown and on my own, I would have more confidence, right? But like I was being told that if I wanted to be seen in God's eyes as being a servant of Him and going to heaven, then I had to do these things. But you know, like if there's this constant tension, right? But the good girl didn't necessarily allow me to step too far out. And my mom was lenient enough in other ways, particularly because of me being involved in dance. Like I had to listen to secular music. She
Mm,
wasn't a big deal about me wearing short shorts or like those were not things that bothered her. So like there was still a level of freedom I had that some girls whose parents were like super churchy, like they didn't have. So like I kind of like just decided this is, you know, like it's okay, you know, it's
yeah.
fine. And I think going to college and being like pretty much only two of the girls from my college went to Spelman. So like I was there with no one who knew me, right? I could reinvent
Mm,
myself. I could be whoever I wanted to be. And there were parts of that old foundation still there that were worth keeping. But I think college really opened me up to even doing things like cursing, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying you gotta curse, but like I was really one of those girls. Like if I had said a cuss word out of my mouth in high school, people would have been like, "I'm sorry, what? Like Jen? Like what?" You know, even being having the freedom to just explore language in that way, I was able to do that. You know, in a way that didn't feel restrictive, even not feel like I had to be at church every Sunday. Like there are all these things that like I was learning, and it was just as I started going into my 40s. I turned 40 last year. Like
what?
yeah,
You did
40
not look
girl.
40. I'll
Well,
be
thank
40 in
you.
November.
You don't look 40 either, girl. That's what I'm saying. They making them different these days, okay? Like,
Yo,
cause the 60-year
tell
old
them.
ladies ain't looking 60 either. So
Tell them.
yeah,
Yes.
but going into being 40, I really and then honestly it happened like probably around 35, 36 when me and my ex-husband split up. And that really became the like, oh girl, like you've been following a lot of people's like blueprints for your life
Mm,
and look where you ended up. You did everything right. Like you followed all the rules. You made the good grades. You went to the really good school. You like came out the mud or whatever you want to call it. You got a good job. Like you did everything right. And here you are, depressed, anxiety, divorce, like all these things that like should not have been the case because I followed the rules and I did right. I was even right with God. Right.
mm,
Like, so I had enough of a foundation to not necessarily blame God, though if a person was in that space, I would not
yeah.
judge, right? But it did start making me reimagine God and reimagine what my life should look like and what freedom for me could look like, right? And so for me, it actually was going back to dance because I had stopped dancing. And that was like something
Mm,
that I loved doing. And I don't think that my ex husband would say that he discouraged me from dancing because he never once discouraged me. Um, but I think there's like, you get caught up in life and you start thinking that like, this thing I'm doing is not going to be supported in the way I need it to be. So I just want to do it. Right.
yep.
And so I had been out of dancing for 15 years, maybe, or something like that. And I decided to go back. And I went back this time to a heels class. And I intentionally did that because I was like, I need to like do something sexy. Like, I need to
Yes.
remember that, like, you are bad, right? Like I was like, I needed to
Always
remember
have
that.
been.
That was like the breakthrough for me. And like I went going back to dancing and finding my place in that studio and doing a dance style like that and getting confident enough, one, to not come into class super covered up. Right. Because if you look at like the first video, I'm like in leggings, a tank top, got a shirt tied around my waist, like, like very, very covered. Right. To like, not that I have to be naked, but if I want to walk into a room dressed more appropriately for the class, like I feel like I can, right? And even being confident with putting it out on social media for people who I grew up with, who gonna feel any old kind of way or possibly whatever, to think what they may think, right? That was it. Like started a dance company, like with with 3 other friends that I met through that process, like 4 adults who are also trying to like get back into knowing who they are and like doing it through that genre. And like it's just been, who would have known, going back to something that little Jen, like I did know, going back to something that little Jen did, right, is healing. Like it's gonna bring you to a place where you remind yourself how important it is to play and how important it is to experiment and be free and like, all these things that adult life tells you you can't do. So I think what was most shocking thing is how many of the people who maybe I thought would have cared like how inspired they were, right?
Mm.
Like how much maybe they wouldn't do it themselves, but they were like, this is dope. And I'm glad to see you dancing again. Like those were the comments I was getting, like, oh, I remember you dancing growing up. I'm so glad you're dancing again. And that's all that people really cared about, was watching me do something that lit me up. And, and people noticed, like, they're like, you look great. You look happy. You look, yeah. Cause I'm like doing some stuff that I like. Like life is feeling, my life might not be good everywhere, but I am making choices of the things that bring me pleasure, right? So yeah, like it's been an interesting ride.
Mm. Just listening is like I have little baby tears coming down
Aw.
because you share so much. And the couple of things that are popping out when we talk about being religious or doing right by God, God created us. And we have different interests. We have different things that excite us, that pull us. And we've always had it
Yeah,
as a younger person. And we're not being influenced by other people's fears, doubt, expectations, assumptions, interpretations of the world and how you are supposed to be. God created me this way.
yeah,
And just like I'm turning 40, and I would say around the last couple of years, same thing where I'm like, yo, I went to school, got the job, killing it, making almost what I was making like $70,000 a year. And I'm like, this is amazing. Depressed, confused, stuck. What am I doing? I'm coming home crying all the, what am I doing wrong?
yeah,
And it's not so much as right or wrong. What am I doing that is not serving Crystal? All the things, everything at work, I'm lying to people, or they're telling me to lie to people or not tell the truth. They're telling me to give half stories. They're telling me basically to work by myself. I'm in an office, no windows. I thrive on collaboration. I thrive on being honest. And over the years, I've learned how to do it in a loving manner, not just, well, it's the truth, being an asshole. um, yeah, and that is the question. What am I doing that is not serving me? What do I constantly keep saying? Yep, I'm gonna do this tomorrow. I'm gonna do this tomorrow. And I know it's killing me slowly. I know I hate it, but quote unquote, I'm supposed to.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, according to who?
Exactly.
Like who said? Like who said that? And I ask myself that a lot, because even with as much as I've grown, one of the things that I feel like I have learned in this time and space of just like exploring things on my own is that like I'm very intuitive and I have to trust myself more. And I know I'm just on the cusp of what I'm capable of doing, right?
Mm,
But the fear is of the success, not the failure, right?
yes.
Like I ain't never failed at almost nothing I did except my first year teaching. That was a disaster, but that's a whole another podcast. But like I have never failed at anything, and I tell women who come into my lab this a lot. Like, my track record is good. Like it is solid. And so there's really no reason for me to doubt that if I come up with something and I do its due diligence to make it happen, that it won't happen. But even with that, I know I'm just at the cusp. And there's so much more I need to kind of let go and figure out and get over to like be in the fullness of, what I think I'm meant to be and give to the world. And so, like, I just need to remind myself of that. Like, what am I think the more I do the thing that serve me, the easier it is becoming to stop worrying about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I think some people who would look at me or look at work I've done or whatever would have no idea how much doubt creeps in, like, and how many projects are literally still sitting in a journal because those ones are a little too big, right? Like, I'm gonna do these ones over here, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I know that I need to do these ones, right? Like, so
Yes.
like those are the struggles that, like come up. But I spent the year going into 40. I pick a theme every year, a word for the year. And last year my word was pleasure. And I spent the year like just exploring all the things that bring me pleasure. And I created pleasure principles for myself that honestly I realized like are guiding for myself, right? And so like when I keep myself aligned to those principles, when I remind myself what's important, it does become a little easier for me to step into a little bit more of this new person that I'm becoming, right? Um, and this year my word is tenderness. So I realized that
Mm.
like I'm very hard on others and I'm very hard on myself. Like I'm only half as hard on others as I am on myself. So like people who work with me know that like, I really do work from a place of excellence and I want other people who work with me to do the same, but I'm learning how to do, like you said, do it in a way that's more tender. And first by being tender to myself and then
Yes.
tender to other people, tender to my daughter. Like I think those tender to myself and tender to my daughter are the main pieces of what I need to learn this year, I know, but like tender to others as well. But yeah, like you're right. We gotta be moving ourselves in a direction where we're constantly doing the things that bring us joy and pleasure.
Constantly. And Jen, you keep speaking to my soul. Like God's universe, I hear you. I receive the message. I'm doing the things. Um, so many different things. I want to get back to the lab, but first, I want to touch on, you mentioned tenderness, and I'm learning that for myself as well, because I can be vulnerable, but I also, with that vulnerability, if I share something with someone, I don't do it for them. I do it for myself. Before it was like, I'm not telling people my business so they can use it against me. So what do I look like? Now it's like, I'm telling you to show myself, I got me. I share that because I'm healing through it, or I'm going through something, or I want your help. And I think that encapsulates what tenderness is. Where now I'm to the point, Jen, if I'm doing something, I'm like, yo, I kill that. Crystal, you did
Hmm.
really, like, I'm literally talking to
Yeah.
myself out loud all day now. And when I say all day, before it'd be like once a day. Now it's about 7 to 10 times a day. Where I was playing pickleball with my husband last weekend, I was hitting it outside the court, like the fence, but the lines. And I was like, Crystal, that was a good serve though. Like you actually went past the kitchen area.
That's
Oh, if it
good.
was only a little bit inside, oh, I could have had it. Like, but before I'm like, come on, come on. I could feel my energy
That's good.
blocking my skills. And I was like, this ain't working. So it's always the awareness of how do you feel? And you mentioned pleasure. Shout out to Goody Howard. Found her on Instagram. She was on a podcast and she talked about pleasure. And I was like, what's your definition of pleasure? She was like, think about you riding your bike or you wearing like a sundress on a breezy. I was like, ooh, and I got chills. And I was like, oh, I
Hmm.
got chills. And she was like, that's pleasure. And I was like,
That's pleasure. Hmm.
and when you talk about going into the class and not being covered up, I told y'all I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have the experience of going to college and being away. I went to a junior college, but I stayed at home. And I knew I wanted to for the just the perspectives and the just being alone and having choices like, do I like this or not? But shout out to me not having any student loans, so I'll take that. That's fine.
Hey,
Whatever.
listen,
Yeah, I'll take
blessings to
it.
you.
Yes.
Blessings,
Thank you.
girl.
I receive it. But I did end up with a group of girlfriends. I was probably like 21, 22-ish. So I'm a little late in the game. And we went out to a club in DC. I ain't got no clubbing clothes. Jen, I think I still have the picture, or they have the picture. I, no lie, wore a turtleneck with the vest and black, like you talking about covered up, covered.
Oh, this is hilarious. Oh my goodness.
And
But
go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was just saying it reminds me of like back in the 2000s when we wore business casual to the club.
Yes,
Like
but I think I missed it. I think I was late. Like this was past 2000 because I graduated in 2000. So yeah. Tell me more about the lab.
Yeah, so Color Girls Liberation Lab, I founded in 2020, launched in December of last year officially. And it's a innovation, a dream lab for Black women, a space for them to heal and relearn our capacity to imagine and dream and like design their most liberated lives. It really kind of came out of a space of realizing how I think I probably got the ping in my like spirit that I wanted to do something for Black women like 4 years ago. But I just like held a page on Instagram and like named it what I thought I wanted to name it and like, you know, just kind of held it because I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. The pandemic came and the summer of 2020 came and I was going into a fellowship program that was all centered around civic media. So like, how you create media that then folks in the community can like gravitate to that then makes them take some sort of action, big or small, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like really trying to define that field a little bit. But basically, I was getting paid to like come up with whatever I wanted to or build on something I already had. And I applied to the program thinking I was going to do one thing. And by the time it came time to interview, I was like, so here's what I think I want to do. I want to create this space for Black women. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I want it to be based in design because I'm a social designer as a profession and an equity strategist. And I wanted design thinking to be a part of it or equitable community design to be a part of it. And I spent the year kind of dreaming this up with some like really dope people who were like, I say they were, I helped me find my people because I never really felt like I fit in the education niche really. And I never felt like I fit in the nonprofit space really. And like being in this space with people who did a lot of different things and they meshed their creativity with like their impact and like all these different things made me feel like, oh, you're not weird for like
Yeah.
having all of these things that don't seem connected, but actually are all centered around a theme of like justice and freedom and space for Black people, like redesigning that space and reimagining what the future looks like for us. The lab became like a place for me to take this community of girlfriends that I've always had, like from, I mean, two of my best friends have been friends with them for 30 plus years. Like we met when we were
Wow.
like 7 and 10 in Richmond. And then like going to Spelman, obviously, huge sisterhood there. Like I've just always been surrounded by Black women who have been like, girl, you got it. Like do it, pushing,
Mm,
like loving. And when people tell me they don't have that, I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you don't have like how are you living without
yeah.
it? Like how are you thriving without a community like that? And so the lab became a space that I thought I was going to do one thing, even in that, but I was open to saying, like, this is not something you need to have all the answers to in the beginning. You just need to have your why and the foundation of what you want people to experience, and then, like, let the people lead, where we go from there. And, it's really become a space of, she had a group called Sisters of the Yam, and it really was just a space for women to come and share their stories and realize they're not by themselves, and then there's transformation that happens in those conversations. And so it started off with that during the pandemic on Clubhouse, like just meeting every Monday.
Okay, I was wondering.
And
Okay.
yeah, it started there. And that still continues. So 2 years in, we're still meeting every Monday at noon. Whoever wants to pop in, it's a private room, but women are coming in there every week. We have a theme for the month, and we kind of focus on that. But it's really laid back and casual, and people share what's going on with their lives, where they are with things, what they're working on, what they're dreaming about, and people are there to kind of support and encourage. And then we have a membership program as well. So in that membership, folks get access to our sister circles, which are like smaller groups focused around a particular area that they might want to focus on. So we've had ones about finding the God in themselves, reimagining God. We're doing one on pleasure this fall. And those have been really great virtual spaces to bring people together. And they come for a 4-week span every Sunday. And we do it on Sunday on purpose. It feels like church, but like it's really just our gathering and kind of tackling these things that we know maybe have been taboo for us, or we just need space to come and share. And a lot of the women who come into those spaces, like they have good girlfriends, but they're growing in a way that they feel like the people around them don't understand. And they're looking for places to like say, hey, this is what I think I want to be. What y'all think? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yes.
have people open to saying, girl, that sounds good to me if it's good to you. You know, like they need that in their lives. And so that's what I've noticed about a lot of the women that are coming. They're growing. They're like, they are creating spaces for freedom in themselves or desiring it. And so if the folks in their space are moving like that, they're like searching for some people who are. And I think like the things I've seen women accomplish in the space have been like amazing. I mean, people have left jobs, got new jobs, bought houses, created businesses, you know, like just all sorts of things they wanted to do. And they just needed some people to be like, make the time to do it. And we will encourage you and help you figure it out. And then we have some in-person events now that we're back in the world and stuff, you know.
We outside.
We outside. We just had our first brunch in July here in DC, which is something we hope city by city thing, like to go to a few different cities and do them. And it's just a collective dreaming space and like good food and like, you know, girlfriends. Feels like, you know, just being with your people. I'm starting a new series with another Richmonder, Latonia from Adjourn Tea House. She and I are about to start a series called Adjourn and Dream.
She was
Yep, she was one
oh,
of the panelists. Yeah, she was one of the panelists at the conference as well. Her tea house is up here. Her tea house is up here in Maryland where I'm living. You know, we got together and decided we wanted to have quarterly. We're thinking quarterly right now. Maybe, you know, if it's led for us to do it more often, maybe we will. You know, collective pausing, collective dreaming space for women. You know, we talk about it just being like a laid back black tea party, but not on some gloves and hats, on some like just being with family.
Come as you are.
Know? Yeah. So we're doing our first one of those in October. And we hope to get down to Richmond to do one. So we might be coming down that way.
Well, tell me more, share the dates for that whenever y'all have it finalized, and I'll share that because oh my gosh, there's so much good stuff there. And now I want to take the step of the journey. All right, let's say, all right, I want to be involved. How do I start? Is it going to Clubhouse every Monday and then going from there and then considering the membership?
I mean, yeah, it's really up to you. Like, I like to have multiple on-ramps for people. Like, I feel like I'm that way in my business. I'm that way everywhere. The Clubhouse piece is free, but it's on Mondays at noon. I know that for some people that might not work, but what has happened is that, you know, it's breakfast time on the West Coast, it's lunchtime on the East Coast, and people have chosen to block their calendars when they can and make it a way to start their Mondays. And some of those women have changed their lives so much, they're like, I don't do nothing before this call, like on Monday. Like, and I'm the same way. I do nothing before that call on Monday. And so that's the first thing I do on Monday. I take time for myself to get myself together for the week. And then that's the first talking interaction I have on Mondays.
Can we pause with that for a second?
Yeah.
Because I don't think people realize how powerful that is for you to decide this is what I'm going to do. Even if people are like, girl, half your day is gone. What do you mean you're not doing? It's so much value. That's why I start at 10. Like people are like, can we meet? I'm like, no. 10 is the earliest I could do. I've tried to do early. Even my therapy appointment, she was like, Crystal, you keep coming late. What do we need to do to get you here on time? I was like, this is really hard. She was like, do we need to make it? Yes. I'm like, I just need to, I don't know why I keep trying to force it. I don't want to rush because that's what I was programmed to do.
That has been one of the biggest things I've learned. And I would say that's what I've translated into what I think I want women to learn from the lab. I tell people all the time, I am not a guru. This lab is not a space for me to be like, let me teach you like my thing.
Yes.
That ain't me, right? Like my job is to create a space that feels so good that you feel willing to be vulnerable immediately. Yes. And then we can all share the good stuff we got for each other together and build together, right? And yeah, I might know more stuff right now than maybe you do on something, but you know more of something else. And don't
Exactly.
nobody know you better than you know yourself. So like
Facts.
you already got the expertise in that. I have learned that like where I can take control, I need to be seeking freedom in those spaces. There are some things that I can't control, right? If I got a 9 to 5 and I got to pay these bills and I can't leave that job or go somewhere else, like I can't do anything about that, right? But what can I do in that 9 to 5 space to like make me feel at peace? Or what can I do when I'm not in that 9 to 5 space to seek out pleasure, to seek out joy, to seek out space to dream, like all of those stuff, which is what we call the liberation blueprint in the lab. So, like all the things we bring together or need to practice or like need to have rituals for
Yeah.
to like live free, liberated lives. And so I think women who choose to come into that space on Mondays and say, like, I'm gonna make the time, like that is their way of saying, I'm gonna choose freedom right now for this hour. And I might have to go back to this man afterwards and work,
Yep.
but I'm gonna take this hour for myself. And they can't,
Yep.
sometimes you can't come every week and stuff like that. And we built relationships so people miss people and they want to see them and they want to hear,
Oh.
so like it's great, but it just becomes a place for them to reclaim some time for themselves. And so, like, I do think that's a great introduction to people. You do not have to talk, though. I do think that sometimes when people see everybody on stage in a room, they're like, "Oh, I do not want to go in this room because then I'm gonna have to talk." You do not have to talk. Like, you can definitely listen. We welcome people to just sit and listen. There are often times when people just hearing other people's stories, they're like, "I got what I needed. Like, I didn't have to
Yep.
share." But that's every Monday at noon on Clubhouse. And if you join, you just have to join the club on Clubhouse, Color Girls Liberation Lab, to see the room. But I do think that's a good entry point for people. And then our sister circles are offered to people who are not lab members for a fee. Like lab members get them for free.
Okay.
But they are offered for a fee. So like that is another place I think for folks to have a short commitment. So because it's a 4 week commitment,
Yeah.
you still get the feel of what it might feel like to be more involved in the space. But like you get to focus on one thing, you get to meet a small group of women, like you make some connections. A lot of women come to all of them, so you'll see the faces over and over again, which is always great. And then if you join our membership community, the lowest amount to join is only like $7 a month. So it's not necessarily super expensive, which is intentional. But at the two higher levels, you get a little bit more access to like, I do worksheets and reflection sheets during the
Oh.
month for people around the themes we have. So you might get to hear about that theme and talk about that theme at Color Girls Lab, but everybody who's a member is also getting questions to think about and they don't have to use it. I always say it's an offering, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it's there in one place for them. So like whenever they're ready to like, oh, I want to go back to what she talked about dreaming, or I want to go back to this thing around joy, they can go back and pull from it. And even that membership space is growing and developing. Like, so it is, I keep getting pressure to want to put more and more stuff on it. And all of my friends are like, no, let it grow with us. Like, let us tell you what we need. We are good. Is anybody complaining to you? Is anybody saying, like, Jen, we feel like we ain't getting our money worth? Like, nobody's saying this to you. So, like, why do you feel like
Yes.
you need to do more? Like, no, you're doing. Like, it's fine. So yeah, and what it becomes, what other piece it becomes from here, like I don't know. A retreat is definitely something that I
Ooh.
really really want to do. We're launching our liberation blueprint course in the new year, which will be like a 6 month deep dive, but sort of self-paced, but also with some in-person like group time and one-on-one time. Like there'll be more ways for people to dig into stuff more. And then I have a podcast. uh,
Yeah.
and I say had because I just recently decided that I'm not doing it anymore in the way I've been doing it.
Yeah.
But the Possibility Lounge is on Apple Podcasts. There's like 5 episodes of that, but I've been also doing those conversations on Instagram Live, so which has felt a little easier. So I think I'm going to just switch to doing monthly conversations there for now, and maybe the podcast will come back around at some point. But so that also is a space where people can connect in a way that doesn't, like if they're not talkers or they just want to get the vibe, join us for those conversations where I'm just talking to other Black women about sort of like this, like just want to learn about your life and like how you're designing, lives of your choosing and things of that nature. Yeah, that's what it looks like now. Who knows what it'll look like next year, but it is the thing that I think that I am most proud of in terms of
Yes.
my body of work. And so, I'm just working towards that being also the thing that sustains my livelihood. And right now
Yes.
it's not, but that's okay. I have something that does, so I can do this. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm.
I'm intrigued. I am excited. I am thankful that we met because I linked up with a woman who mentioned about a retreat. And I've said years ago, I was like, it would be so dope if I had a retreat and we got together and we just talk about stuff and like we laugh and not like having
Yeah.
this whole structure, but I
Yeah.
wanted that community of people who just wanted to show up and share. That's it.
That's it.
And it
Mhm.
goes back to what you're saying, like you had a podcast. Podcasting is very complex. It's
Yeah.
not just speaking into a mic, it's editing,
Right.
it's marketing, it's chopping. It's like, okay, now reach out to this. It's like, it's a lot of behind the scenes. So I totally
Yeah.
get it. But you on Clubhouse multiple days
No,
like that.
one.
Oh, just the Monday or Sunday?
Just the one Monday.
Oh, just the
And
Monday.
then
Okay.
when we do Sunday sister circles, we do those on Zoom. You get those appointments
Got
through
you.
our community. And one good thing about doing the sister circles is when you do those, even if you're not a member, you do get access to the membership community for 3 months. So then you can kind of peek in there and see like what's up. And then like upgrade your membership and you get a discount too if you do a sister circle, a discount to the membership. So those are ways for people to kind of be like, let me dip my toe in here and see if I want to like full blown membership it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, but this year we did our first liberation box. That's something that I always wanted to do a box with just Black women vendors, but I wanted it to be themed around, rest and, dreaming and like ritual. And so a friend of mine at Soap, she does bath teas and she curates a box twice a year. And I said, can you want to help me curate something? And she was like,
Oh,
yeah. So like we put together this box, we put it out. It's always going to be like this. It's just a limited order. It's
yes.
50, and like when it's gone, it's gone. And Elon's story around why she started doing that and like doing her boxes and doing 50 because she's reaching out to Black women micro businesses. Like most of us are like one person doing our job, right? And so you get an order of 50 of something at one time, like that's a big deal for your business to be able to allow you to do something to help take you to the next level, right? When
Yeah.
most of the time we're getting trickled in orders, right? You might get
Yep.
2 or 3 here, 5 here, whatever. But like a bulk order of something changes the dynamic of what you can do. And so that became her strategy for who she
Mm,
picks to go in her boxes. So it's not just like I'm selling this box to you. You buy this box, you contributed to a woman being able to like step her business up in some sort of way, right? And so I wanted to do that with all Black women vendors. And it was centered around building like a dream ritual for yourself. So there was bath products and a ritual candle and like the first edition of a card deck I have that's like reflections and everything and that I've been working
nice.
on. So people got a sample. Like if you see people opening those, like everybody who's at the top level of membership got that box for free. So like people are
Oh,
like, oh, look at what we got, like
that's so
like,
cool.
you get little perks along the way, and like there'll be more as the lab grows. The membership perks will adjust and change to make sure people get little things here and there to show how much I really appreciate them trusting me in this space. Yeah, it's been like the best thing, and like my daughter watching me do it, like she
Mm,
loves it. She's like, "Oh, you talking to the ladies in the lab today?" Like like she thinks it's
yes.
so cool, and and I knew that something was right with I don't know if you're a Beyonce fan, but if you
Of
are,
course.
okay, been listening to Renaissance,
Yes.
there's this
Yes.
part on Alien Superstar where there's like the talking breakdown where the woman is like, we do everything special and different. And she came to me after she had listened to it. She's like, Mommy, are you on this album? This sounds like
Oh.
you. And I was like, no, man, that's not me. She's like, this sounds just like something you would say. Like, and
Oh,
I was like, oh, you
wow.
listening. Like you're listening. Like you're seeing. And I'm trying. I'm not perfect. I'm not doing
You're
it all
doing.
right.
You're doing.
But I'm doing enough for her to see like there's a different way that you could be, moving. So, just trying to
Mm.
be gentle with her and me.
Shout out to you being gentle to yourself and seeking pleasure in yourself. And I think that's what people miss. When you do it for yourself, you give others permission, including your kids. So
Mm-hmm.
often I talk to parents, I don't have kids, but I've seen it. I've been a kid. You keep putting all this effort into me, put it into yourself. It's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure as a kid. I can't hold that. I can't be that image you want me to be because you didn't do it for yourself. Please do it for yourself as parents, as guardians. Like, I'm telling you, you will get it back tenfold. They will see it like, oh crap, she did it that way because that's what she liked. That's what she enjoyed. Oh,
Yeah.
he's venturing out this way. He's handling that situation because that's what he wants. What do I want to do?
Yeah.
That's the biggest gift you can give your kids of giving it to
Mhm.
yourself. It sounds
No, it's so
counterintuitive,
true.
but if you take a step back, you're like, yeah, that don't make any sense. Why wouldn't I treat myself the same way I'm treating my child? You think
And
you're giving.
it's a reciprocal reward because when you watch them then choose themselves, you're like, oh, I'm so glad.
Yes.
Like I know there's gonna be some moment as an adult where my daughter is gonna have to make a decision and she's gonna know that I would want her to do something different and she's still gonna choose to do the things she wants to do, not thinking that I'm gonna be upset about it. And that is one thing that I look for. And we're not there yet. I've definitely like been in my perfectionism parenting stage. So like I'm trying to get out of it. Like this year is definitely teaching me a lot, but as she grows into being older, like I'm glad I'm learning it now. Because I really
Yes.
do hope that like she's not like the little Jen. The little Jen would have seen the two choices and made the choice her mom would have been most comfortable with. I don't want Nia to do that. Like I want
Mm,
her to feel like be conscious, be smart, be safe, make the good choice, but if you want to make the choice that's different than the choice I want to make, like I want you to feel like you could do it,
yeah.
you know, even
And
if it's just the clothes you wear every day.
it's the informative choice. When Goody was on here and she was talking about pleasure and like kids, and she was like, we talk about young boys masturbating, but we don't talk about girls. And even my body, I was like, ooh, wait, what's that? She was like, had we educated, or if it's open, she does with her kids, but she was like, imagine being educated of how to please yourself. Just
Yeah.
feeling good, not like I want to do this and now I want to have sex. She was like, so often we tend to then gravitate towards another to provide that pleasure. And when they don't, we get mad at them. And think about you pleasing yourself. So then when you get out there in a relationship, whomever is with, you're like, mm-mm. I'm
Yeah.
not taking the physical abuse or verbal abuse because you can throw it down.
Yeah.
I got
Or
that for myself. I don't need you.
Or if I enjoy being with you, I actually know what to tell you. They ain't gonna know what to do just off the
Dang.
bat. Like
Yes.
you gotta tell them.
Say
You
that
gotta
part
talk
again.
to them. Like, and I don't mean that just sexually, though I do like there has definitely been a more of a boldness that I think I have gotten now in this second wave of what I would say like my sexual life, because it didn't really start early because of my religious upbringing. But then
Yeah.
like I feel like I have gotten to the point now where it's like, yeah, you gotta say something. You gotta talk and you can do it. There's a ways to do it, right? With everybody. I need to know what I like, what pleasure feels like to me sexually so I can tell a partner that I want that. I also, and not just in the bed, but even in the way I'm loved, the way I'm treated, the
Yes.
things that how to show up for me, right? And I need to know what it feels like, what pleasure feels like in the work I do. So I won't choose some job just because the paycheck is
Yes.
beautiful, but it ain't got the stuff that's gonna make me feel valued and like supported. I gotta know like what feels like pleasure in my friendships in my community, so I know when it's time
Mm.
to let somebody go, and when that shifts, right? Like the way pleasure feels like or what you expect from it can shift, and that means people gonna have to shift, and that
Yep.
doesn't mean you have to be gone forever, but like the percentage of time you take in my life is gonna have to be adjusted.
Yes.
And I don't think you can figure any of the answers to those questions out if you don't first know for yourself what good feels like.
Yes.
Like you
Awareness.
have to learn it. You have to figure it out for yourself.
So
And I don't
often
think you can figure it out with community. I do think the way we figure it out is in community, but it has to still be some internal work.
you touched on the point that I was going to get to, that this is not sitting down, but all right, what do I want? What do I want? You can do that, but it's still in you doing something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I used to dance when I was younger. Let me take a dance class.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the class is too fast. Maybe the class is too stiff. Maybe the teacher and you aren't vibing for whatever reasons, but you got to do something. You got to bring that awareness about first. Too often, as a coach, you're like, what do you want? I don't know.
Yep.
So we sit
Yep.
and
Yep.
we wait because it's going to come to you. You probably haven't even
Yeah.
been asked that question. So your brain automatically, I don't know, move on, next.
Yeah.
No, there is no next. We can't move
I think
next.
that that has been one of the interesting parts, I think, of being in the lab too, is there are cyclical themes we come back to. And one of the foundational principles of the lab is dreaming. So one of the things I've asked folks to try when we're kind of in the space of really focusing on dreaming is to take time, like 3 times out of the week, and just daydream for 5 minutes. And like at first it was like, how do I daydream? Like it was so many technical questions. Like, how do I daydream? What do I do? How do I, like it was so much. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
like, y'all, okay, I'll give y'all some stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Like, like if that's what we need, right? I'm like, but now so many of them are like, it's just, like it's nothing for them to sit down with their cup of tea and just like let themselves like
Mm.
zone out. Or like this, I'm sitting next to my window, it's my favorite spot in my bedroom. Like I'll sit here and I'll just look out and like I'll just, and you just let yourself like go somewhere. And so many of them are like, they don't look at it as odd anymore, or don't, and they're like rekindling that idea or that ability to like think outside of what is possible, right? And
Yes.
like, because who cares what you dream about in 5 minutes? Anybody say you got to make it come true? Just sit there and like enjoy it for 5 minutes, right? Now, if you want it to come true, we can talk about how to bring the future to the
Yes.
present, but you don't have to. Like, you could just sit in what that feels like the pleasure and freedom that feels, what that feels like, right? And the same thing with the freedom piece. Like, one of the questions I ask, and it's in one of my reflection deck too, is like, what does freedom feel like to you? And I ask them to ask them that question, themselves that question every day. And so many of them are like, I don't even know. I really realized I've never thought about that. Like, I don't know what freedom actually feels like for me.
Yeah.
And so the trying of things, the small rituals, the things like I don't like giving people step by step because, like, you
Me
are
neither.
not me. I can give you
Yes.
an example. I can share with you what I try. I can share with you what other people try. But like, I need you to then try different things for yourself and honestly let yourself feel it. I like to tell people to go for the thing they know first. Like you said, I knew I used to like dancing. Let me go back to dancing, right? So like the likelihood is you're still gonna like it, right? So
Yes.
what did it feel like? Can you be present in that moment and see what did it feel like in your body to be in this place that you love, right? What did your face do? What did your
Yes.
body feel like? What did your heart do? How did you feel after? Did you want to tell all your friends about it? Like, that's pleasure, that's joy. When you feel that again, what were you doing? Write it down, right? Like that's your
Yes.
list. Like I tell people, make a pleasure list. And they thought I was playing. I'm like, make a pleasure list. I'm telling you, because when you get in your head, you don't think straight. So you need to be able to be like, let me just pick something from the list, right? Like I don't
Yes.
have time to think about it. I'm gonna pick something from the list and I know it's gonna bring me pleasure because I curated and custom designed it for myself,
Mm.
right? Like so, I think we can design the lives of our choosing. It takes time, but like we can do it, like we can live the lives we want. I truly do believe that.
Ah,
Even within
this
this
is so
system of
good.
patriarchy and oppression and all that, like I
Yes.
believe we can create liberated spaces for ourselves. I do.
And even in that world that you described, it gives me more oomph to do that because it is. Why not come back to me instead of stepping out into that world and
Mm-hmm.
feel like, oh, I got to find my way to fit in within yourself first. And
Yeah.
you'll find the freedom. You'll find like, this is really dope. It's kind of fucked up over there what they're doing, but I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
We could do this all day.
I
I want
know we could.
to I want to pivot just for 10 minutes.
Hmm.
If we have time, do we still have time?
Yeah.
Okay. This is our think tank moment where I want to spend some time with you to focus on something that you're stuck with currently.
I think I'm gonna go back to something I talked about earlier, which is like this idea of mm, being fearful of success, like holding myself back a little bit, like or being scared to tackle bigger things. That's the big holdup for me. That's
Okay.
that's that's the big thing.
What's the one thing that's kind of dancing around in your head right now that you're holding back on doing?
Well, I mean, there's multiple projects that like I have out that I would like to get started. I mean, even doing this course that will be coming up next year is like a big risk for me. Like, charging what I'll charge for it, like committing to it, designing it. And so I would say this has been one step of committing to doing it. is like one step towards some of this, but it's still in a realm that I feel most comfortable in. Like I facilitate and design for a living. So like it's easier for me to make something like a course, right? The marketing part is the part where it's gonna be stepping out and I I'm gonna be like, I don't
Okay.
know. And the marketing is not because I'm not savvy. I can design, I can write forever. There's something about me having to put myself out for the world to scrutinize, pick apart, or whatever that I know is a huge part of my work. So and that is the part I'm running from. I'm trying to do as much as I can to only be as visible as I have to be, right? But I know that that's not actually going to be the way that this is going to work. And I'm just really scared of it. And I don't know. I think I've watched the way people treat people.
Mm.
I've watched the way people scrutinize people's lives and nitpick things. And I watch the way people dig into things. Not that I think I have any skeletons that, are juicy or anything, but I think there's some fear that maybe people that would happen or that, I'll mess up really badly and like everyone will see it, right? So like undoing the perfectionism probably is the root of it, to be
Yeah.
completely honest. Um, well, you see how that happens when you just be talking and then you be like, girl, it's the perfectionism.
That part. And I mean, it's completely understandable, especially with, like you mentioned, being a perfectionist, acknowledging you want to do your best. You want to provide things for others to find value in. So that fear makes sense of what if there are people who won't find value in it? That would hold anybody back. So that's normal,
Yeah. Yeah.
first and foremost.
And I think I need to realize like everything I'm doing now is something I can almost do by myself, right? Like, yes, I might have partnerships with people for very specific small projects, but I don't have a team, right? And as much as I like being with people in a team, I don't trust anybody enough to like let them be a part of my team. Like I'm having that problem, I think, too, which I also realize tied to my tenderness stuff too. It's like trusting people enough to like let them into my space in that way. Um in a way that feels like my name is on the line, I think.
Yeah.
I think
What would
that's when I
it
have a hard time doing.
what would it look like to tenderly trust someone?
Well, I think I've been trying to do that by doing these small partnerships, but I'm still not fully relaxed in them, you know? I still feel like there's times when I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, like when is this person not going to show up like I've asked them to or that we've agreed to or whatever. Like I think I'm always, no matter how much they've shown their trustworthiness. Um, and I've been disappointed in the past by people. So like it's not like it comes from nowhere. But I do think that like there's lots of things that contribute to me not trusting folks. And so I think like besides keeping those small partnerships and actually letting myself like relax into them and not be worried so much. I think that even finding like a consistent, like just deciding that like a small position that I would want to be a more consistent like partner with me on doing everything and like finding that right person and just starting there with someone who kind of wants to build the dream with me um might be a good start. I just yeah, that might be a good start.
I was going to ask, what is trust? Like, what does that mean to you? What does that look like for you?
So this is tricky because I feel like some of this is based on like what the person does in terms of like if we're partnering on something, there's things that we need to do together. Like you just being able to show up in a spirit of excellence and like do really good work. Like that's part of it because like I trust a lot of people. Well, I shouldn't say that. I trust people in my personal life a little bit more than I trust them in my like professional life. Like there's less to lose on the personal life side, it feels like, right? Like, so if you're not like really good at doing, I don't know, coming places on time in our personal life, like, is that really gonna make that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things? No. but it will in my professional life, right? So like there are just areas where I feel like in my professional life in terms of like work quality, like and like just showing up with wanting to do like um commit to the work, I guess. I think oftentimes I feel like I am more committed to the vision than maybe the person who I'm working with. Like they are committed to the idea, but like the work for the vision, they're not committed to the work for it. And so then it becomes this thing where like we vibe, but like we ain't putting in equal work, you know? So like
Mm,
then it's like the thing is great, but at the end, I'm still feeling a little like jaded, right? Like, cause we didn't, everybody didn't show up like they're supposed to, but the show still had to go on. So,
yeah,
and it's my name on it. So I'm not about to beg you. I'm gonna just do it, you know, like, so
yeah.
those are the things that have happened in lots of different spaces in the past that then make me be like, I don't know if I want to let anybody get like, have this much of this thing I love on the line, you know, whatever. So, yeah. You see what I'm saying? People be thinking you
I
have all your stuff together and like
yeah.
it be hard in here.
It's it's real because you have to be vulnerable to this is my vision, this is what I want to create, and to allow someone to come in to say, yo, I resonate with that and I feel it too. And when that agreement is made, either verbally, contractually, it sounds like it is then assumed like, all right, so we are on the same page. But yet y'all are two different people. So the word that keeps popping up, I'm like, is it trust or is it obedience?
You know, in this instance I would say it was trust because I really want to be able to trust whoever I'm working with enough that like I don't actually gotta tell you what to do. Like, you know the vision, you got a vision for something, like, and I trust that you're gonna go put it out into the world and it's gonna be great. Like it's gonna be exactly what someone would expect to come from something that my name is on. And maybe like that is like it's another, I know that it's another manifestation of the little Jen stuff, right? Like everybody has expected me to do things that are really good. So like I can't now do something that ain't good, right? Like that is some of it. And so I think I would like I like to work in a way where everybody gets to work in whatever modality or way that they want. But in order for us to do that, like I still have to know that like if we putting something out on this day, that I'm not gonna be calling you the day before, wondering why you didn't meet the deadline, or do the thing, So and
Mm-hmm.
or just tell me that you need more time because hello, we ain't gotta be meet the deadlines are arbitrary. We create this ourselves. Like so this it's not even that. And some of it is perceived distrust, right? Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's just me being like, I don't know if this is gonna feel good or not. And sometimes it doesn't feel good. And I do trust those things. Like sometimes it
Yeah.
honestly just doesn't feel good. And I think I'm still finding my right people. And maybe I'm just trying to, I think my concern is that maybe I don't want to say I'm being patient and really I'm being stalling, because part of me is like, okay, maybe you just need to be patient and the right people, the more you share, the more you whatever, the right people will present themselves. Just like with these partnerships, the right person to be in a more stable position will present itself. But then I also don't want that to be the excuse, like I'm waiting, girl, when really like I need to be doing something. I just don't know what that something is just yet.
So I'm gonna bring it back to the top of the moment we had where you said you're taking a risk with the course, right? And you're stuck with that. What does that mean to you when I say it back?
I think that it makes me. I guess the first thing I thought is like, why do you think this is a risk? Like that was the first thing when you say, yeah, I'm taking a risk. I'm like, did I say that? And I'm like, because I'm like, why do I feel like it's a risk? But it is, but it's not risky, really, honestly, in any place that I haven't played around in before. Honestly, if I'm honest with myself, it's just probably not as much as a risk as I'm thinking it is. And I do have trusted people who like I got a group of lab members who are going to pilot it. I trust them. I know they're gonna give me like brutal feedback. Um, and then I just, you know, need to put it into the world.
Well, what word would you like to replace risk with for this new
Um,
venture?
that's a good question. Maybe it's new. It's new to me.
That's
Yeah,
it.
it's just new to me. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of coaching a woman from one of my cohort. Her and I were going back before she helped me with my final coaching call. And it was the same thing where it was something new. And she was like, "This is new. I don't know. I don't know." And like this and this. And I was like, "When was the last time you did something like this?" She was like, "Oh," and just ran through the list of, she was really new, Jen. Like she had just started the job. They're like, "All right, now you're going to start leading and coaching." She's like, "Wait a minute. I just started working here like 6, 8 months ago. How am I?" But it was new. So her body, her brain was like, "Oh gosh, oh no, abort, abort." So shout out to you for acknowledging, oh, this word, which I want people to understand that words have power.
Yeah, they
And
matter.
you being aware of, oh, I use that word. I don't even know if I want to use that word. And you changed it just like that. This is new. How did that feel to say this is new?
It really made me hear saying it was new and then hearing your story made me think about how maybe I feel like this also because all of this has been new. Like everything for the lab is new. The whole thing is new. Like so there's nothing I have done that I'm not kind of creating in the moment and saying, is this gonna work? Like, and maybe I'm just in newness overload. And it's
Mm.
like, like it's too many new things at once. And I need to like slow down on the new stuff and maybe stick to some of the stuff that I already have worked on, like, and just like let those things be for a while. And I feel like I got to do the next new thing, which is also an issue for me, like, because I got a billion ideas and I want to do them all. Right. So, like, maybe I'm a little bit of newness overload too. Some of it I know is still fear that I have to get through. But I wonder if some of that fear is exacerbated because I'm in newness overload. And maybe if I wasn't in this space where I felt like, oh, you got to do the next new thing. You got to check off the list of ideas you have. Like maybe if I wasn't in that space, then this new thing wouldn't feel so like, anxiety
Overwhelming.
ridden.
Yeah.
Yeah, and overwhelming. Yeah.
And Jen, it is normal for you to feel the fear. It's normal for you to feel all these emotions. That is the human experience. Like that is very important to get across, that not even dealing with it, but just be like, oh, I'm feeling a little fearful. Like I meditate often, do the guided meditation. They'll say you're experiencing fear. You're
Yeah.
not scared, you're not fearful. Oh, I'm experiencing it's this newness. And your awareness of maybe I'm doing so many new things that it is overwhelming. Because even when we do one new thing, our brain will be like, I don't know about that. I don't know. You're like,
Yeah.
well, so imagine 10.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at, like 6 or 7 new things.
You're doing it.
Like
You
I'm
are
saying
doing
it
it.
out loud. I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Like I'm literally
You're
reevaluating right
exploring. You're
now.
exploring. You are
Yes, in my
exploring.
head. I'm like, oh
Yes.
girl, what can you not do? Like something has to
Yes.
come out. Like something can't happen. Like you do not need 6 or 7 new things. Like, yeah. Like we about
Now,
like when I get off this call, I'm be sitting there like, okay, we about to look at like
so
something's
you
not
got your
happening this
action
year.
items, go run with it. And for people who
Yeah.
are listening, the only reason she's going to look at the list is because of what she's feeling. There might be someone who thrives off of 17 new different things and
Mm-hmm.
they're doing it. But the realest thing I read recently, Jen, was a post, and I'm probably going to chop it up and not even, but they were like the biggest thing for entrepreneurs to understand is you creating a business or building something is boring. But what we tend to do is like, ooh, let me do this new thing. Let me do this new thing. Let me do this new thing. They're like, if you just stick to just a few things you know and do it well and redefine it and just keep doing it well, just keep,
Mm-hmm.
but it's flowing, it's going like your participants who were like, girl, we're not asking for all this stuff. You keep giving it to us. Let
Mm-hmm.
us tell you what we need. And our brains is like, but this is boring. But I need to spice it up. I've been
I
doing
need
the
to do something
same
else.
thing. If it's working, leave it the F alone.
Yeah.
Let it be. You don't have to do and do and do. And I thank you so, 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 so much for sharing that time with me, sharing today with me.
No, thank you.
We are connected. Like, you have got my brain going. I'm excited for what I can learn from you and
Thank
your community. And like, thank you so much for just being here. And anything you want to share, people to reach out to you, please do that now. But I'm also going to share your links in the show notes as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm so glad we met. Like, it's always great to come home and then like have connections that make me look at home in a different way, right? Like not as the little kid growing up in Richmond, because Richmond ain't that no more.
Yeah, yeah.
But thank you for that. And if folks want to follow along, Colored Girls Lab is our Instagram handle. And then coloredgirlslab.org is our website, and you can get to all of those places from the website as well. And then my personal Instagram, if you just want to follow my journey in general, is Jenn with two N's, S Roberts. So happy to meet new people. Happy to have, if you're a Black woman, know a Black woman or femme, and they need a community, like send them over. And if you're around on Clubhouse, like join the club, please. Like you can find the link in my Instagram bio for all of that. So,
Say your
yeah.
personal IG again, because I think you cut out for me and I want to make sure it's in there. So say your
Okay,
IG again.
it's Jenn with two N's, JENN S Roberts.
Thank you. I'm definitely going back in Clubhouse. I had it before and I got rid of it. I think, again, when you talk about the newness overload, which I really appreciate that phrase, because that my brain was like, yep, got it.
Mm-hmm.
I just got rid of, I was like, I'm doing too many things. I'm jumping into too many rooms. I got notes to take. I got to implement the notes, and then
Yeah.
I got to coach people. I'm like, I can't do this. And I got rid of it. So now I can come back. I have a
I'm
reason.
literally on Clubhouse for that one meeting each week. And honestly, it's because Clubhouse has become the best platform to do that type of conversation. If I could
I
find
agree.
another way to do it, I probably wouldn't use it. But that is the best platform for this type of conversation, I think. But I'm on there for that, and that's it. And most of the women who come in there are like, I don't go to Clubhouse for nothing but this meeting.
Thank you
So,
for that message. I received the message. I received it. I thank you for that. And thank you, Jenn.
Thank you.
Heart. Thank
Yeah, thanks
you.
very much.
Bye. Jenn, I know that list of yours is feeling light and easeful, especially after that impactful think tank moment you allowed me and the dope listeners to share with you. We are cheering you on so we can be a part of the journey as well and experience the growth and the feels you are providing. Peeps, if you have a free hand, please hit up Colored Girls Lab right now on Instagram at Colored Girls Lab. And please visit the website coloredgirlslab.org. You can also connect with Jenn on her personal page at Jenn S. Roberts. That's two N's. Join the community on Clubhouse as well with Colored Girls Liberation Lab. Thank you so much, Jenn. You have provided so many on-ramps for us to experience what you have already started creating, and you shared a little bit by providing it for us today. One in particular is creating a habit of a pleasure and joy list. Going back, thinking about what you enjoyed as a child, recalling how you felt, were you excited, feeling free, energized, joyful? Write that down on your list. And now do that thing again and recall how it feels in this present moment. Continue to add to the list, and then you can also add what could enhance that experience. Where do you feel those feelings in your body? And voila, you created your own pleasure list. So now you can always refer back to your customized list when you are wanting pleasure. I must give a huge shout out for the peeps who strolled up to the first pop-up event for Loving Me Through community. It was rainbow picnic themed this past Saturday. It was exciting, relaxing, overwhelming, eye-opening, and each person in attendance poured something into me. The belief in myself and our growing community, the new connections, the new opportunities. It was a newness overload in the best way, and I'm filled with gratitude. And Sierra and Elise, who are 2/3 of the Loving Me Through community, thank you for allowing me to be my full self. And y'all just perfectly fitting in to create this magical moment and so many more to come. If y'all haven't already followed us for all the pics that we are going to share, that we captured at so much dopeness. You'll get to see the OGs of Loving Me Through community since this was our first pop-up event. Go ahead and follow at Loving Me Through on Instagram now. You can now follow Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons on Amazon Music and get new episodes when they become available. You can try it out now by saying, Alexa, play Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons, or you could use Echo. Echo, play Unstuck Yourself with Crystal Simmons. Until next week, peeps, trust the process. Bye.